Hey, it's Dave here from Tab and Slot. I hope you're having a great day. I wanted to do a quick assembly overview video of our blade. I don't know why we picked that name. It just kind of happened one day. But of our blade front bumper for the Jeep JK series. Now, I've been promising a few of you um, a hands-on actual Weld video for about a week now, and it's just been crazy busy here and just haven't gotten to it. But I did want to go over it for a couple of you that are just dying to get your hands on the kit. So this is the basic finish assembly. The only thing that's not shown in here is the mounting studs. Obviously, you want to use some best practices when welding one of these things up. All of the welds are designed to go corner to corner, which leaves you a nice V groove to sink a nice MIG weld bead or TIG weld bead onto and polish it off very easily. Up here is the same thing. Everything is set up to go corner to corner or very close to it. Now, obviously, because this is formed steel, plus or minus a quarter of a degree on these bends, which is the best you can ever control press brake parts, means that, you may have to put a pliers on it and pry it a little bit as you're tacking it together. There is a sequence that should be observed when putting these things together. I tack the entire bumper together with the exception of a couple of places that must be fully welded before you tack the parts on. So I wanted to go over that. So the very first step that you're going to put together is this. It's these pieces here. And it's all tab and slot, so nothing can go in the wrong place. You don't ever have to worry about that, okay? And what you're looking for is gaps. For instance, when this piece gets slid into this front plate, because this is all one piece. If I isolate this here, you'll see what I mean. So that's all one piece, and that pull tab slides through a slot in the faceplate, so it self-locates. Okay, so if you have some gaps here, or here, or here, right? It's important to pay attention to that. Now, most likely, there isn't going to be a gap big enough that's going to cause you a problem so big that something doesn't fit, right? Because the bolt pattern is kind of set by the laser, so it's incredibly accurate. The front gussets, also tab and slot through the top plate, tab and slot through the front plate. And all of this tab and slot work, what we've designed it to do is the strength comes from filling this gap with weld. But you carry your weld up over the top of this so you can grind it flush and it disappears and you still have plenty of strength. So everything fits together like that. Watch your gaps. If you have a huge gap, if you've got an 1/8 inch gap, something is wrong. There's either a burr or a BB or a high spot on something that you'll have to touch with a grinder. So the other thing, if I isolate this guy again, this is one of those has to be fully welded before it's tacked steps. We supply you with 7/16 flathead bolts and nuts. You put the flathead bolts in from the back side. Now they're countersunk, right? But we don't countersink these holes, so that makes the edge of the head stand up about 1/8 of an inch. And we put a little weld on that and a little weld on the top. So what you do is you put that flathead bolt in from the back and put the nut on this side, and that centers the bolt because it's a tapered flathead, and then you just put a couple of welds on this side, okay? And you can't get to those welds once you start tacking this together. So that's your first step, is to put those bolts in from the back side of these brackets. Again, the head of the bolt, let me isolate this again. The head of the bolt will be on this side, and the nut will be on this side. And then once they're welded, just take the nuts back off. Okay? So that's your step one. Step two is assembling the light buckets, and I'm going to move this one out. And again, these are tab and slotted together. You can't put them together wrong. Watch for gaps. And you're going to want to weld these a little bit here and a little bit here before you plug this into the bumper, okay? Because they're hard to get to. So weld that and then plug it into the bumper like that, and then it just gets welded through these slots, okay? Step 3, we're going to put on the end caps. The end caps, like I said, should lay in here corner to corner. Tack everything. You may have to put pliers on something, clamp something to the table and tweak a little bit, but I promise you the fit-up's very, very good. And virtually, if you take your time, virtually everything fits perfectly, okay? So if something's wrong, I highly recommend you bust this tack weld loose and try it again, because the fit's pretty good on these things, guys. So don't if you're seeing a problem when you're tacking it up, most likely it's a problem caused by, like I said, a burr or a misalignment or something like that. The bolt pattern's controlled by the laser, so it's going to fit on your Jeep. It's really all about appearance. So the more craftsmanship you put into it, the better off it's always going to be. And then the last step is to put on the doubler plates. Now we do something very special with our pull points, and I'll explain that in a minute. The last place you need to weld before these doubler plates go on. So at this point, I'm finished welding the bumper. Okay? Finish weld the bumper and polish this weld back off while you have the room. Just this inside or outside one on both sides. And the reason for that is because what we do is we actually use a grade 50 doubler plate. So what you'll do is you'll set plate outside, plate inside, pin it together with a piece of 1-inch rod or line the hole up real good with your finger and clamp it, and then we fill this groove with weld and weld all the way around. And that gives us a perimeter wrapped weld and grade 50 abrasion resistant pull points on the outside, and it creates an extremely strong pull point and saves a little bit of weight over going with a billet inch thick type of situation. So that's the blade bumper. Pretty simple. Take your time and you will have a piece that you can be really, really proud of. So I've got a full weld video coming hopefully over the weekend here, but this should get you going. Have a great day, everyone. Talk to you soon.